public hearing. Controlling the use of alcoholic beverages ordinance. Any public comment?
I couldn't hear you.
Sorry. Controlling, public hearing. Controlling the use of alcoholic beverages
Thank you.
ordinance. Any public comment on that? Okay.
Should we shut that door?
Yes.
Oh, it's the fan. That's what it is.
Well, it's a server you're hearing in the background
Okay.
with the air conditioner.
I can hear just fine,
Yeah.
but I don't know if other
Yeah.
people can.
I think we just need to speak loudly.
Okay.
So, have a
That
seat,
might-
Sheriff Anderson.
Eric, Lisa, what is the ordinance, or what is it that's to be discussed about it?
So the prior alcohol ordinance was written, I don't know, in 1972 or something like that. So it's just an update to that ordinance.
All right, no comments on that. Second one, establishing and implementing a program to charge mitigation rates. Any public comment on that?
I'll go first.
And just a little housekeeping prior to speaking, please state your full name. Include select board members as well. When a motion is made, motion is first and second. Yeah, just pretty much so everybody can speak up and anything noise gets picked up in the back. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. So I made a statement at the.
Name, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, you just,
You're already breaking the rules.
I'm already breaking the rules. Jeanette White, and I live on Old Depot Road. Is that enough?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
I did make a statement at the last select board meeting, and assuming that you all know what it said about both the process and the ordinance itself, I will not repeat it. But I do have a few things to say. First, if the impetus for this is coming from a billing company looking for work, that is shameful. We are better than to fall prey to that kind of soliciting. Granted, it could have represented foregone money, but it should be undertaken seriously and carefully, not to rush into a contract, which is what it seems to be doing. As far as I can tell, there is no indication of where the billing rates came from. In the ordinance, it says that they will be established by the town emergency response cost mitigation rate policy, but gives no indication of who will write this. I believe they came from the billing company because it refers, the list of scale rates refers to we will bill and you have the right to, including indicating that we is the billing company that will do the billing and you is the town of Putney. And as a side, this is not a policy. This is a rate schedule. A policy is a guiding principle, procedure, or strategy to guide internal decision-making. That comes from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. There is nothing in here to guide decision-making. It is simply a rate schedule. I still have concerns about the word shall, but even if, as we are being told, shall does not necessarily mean must, that it can be flexible and open to interpretation. This is worrisome. I'll get back to that in 1 minute.
Really?
In the rate schedule, it says, will bill. Is will also flexible? As an example, level 1, which states that almost every time the fire department is called, the rate is $602. Does that mean that every time Putney Fire is called for anything, the party will be billed $602? I understand it is mainly the insurance company that is billed, but unless it is in a homeowner's policy, there is no allowance for that. And there still exists the problem of EMS responses. We do not have a provider number and so cannot bill for these calls. Yet they are in here since they are part of Putney Fire. So back to shall or will or may. If shall and will are flexible, who is to determine when they are built and when they are not? There is nothing in the ordinance, nor the so-called policy, to indicate that. All the ordinance says is a rate schedule shall be established, the insurance company shall bill, and in some circumstances, the responsible party will be billed. And it also states that it will become effective 30 days after adoption, which is in violation of state law because state law says 60 days. So in itself, the ordinance is wrong. So Putney Fire came to my house twice this winter for EMS calls. My insurance company allows $5,000 for cleanup after a fire, nothing for any other calls. So now I will be billed $1,204. Or maybe if I'm in good favor with the decision maker, maybe I won't be. So who will make this determination? The fire chief, the select board, the town manager, the town clerk? There's nothing in here that indicates who will do it. An ordinance should indicate who is responsible for enforcement, what enforcement there is, an appeal process, and definitions. This does none of that. This ordinance was rushed, did not have adequate public input, and is not well written and should not be put into effect. Thank you.
May I get a copy of that statement?
Yeah, do you want it like this or should I clean it up?
You can clean it up. So, thank you.
I just want to make the comment that that this was not a solicitation from a billing company. This has been in the works for quite a long time. It's been something that the fire, that Karen has mentioned since I've been on the board, and probably before. The old ordinance was not sufficient to use a billing contracting company, and the town doesn't have the resources to bill. So, in order to solicit a billing contract, we needed to update the ordinance. The contractor that was originally contacted was just an example of billing contractors. It was not, that we're not entering into a contract with them. It will probably go out to bid. So this ordinance is just an update to the old ordinance so that we can bill if we want to. It only authorizes us to bill.
I don't know if I can make a follow-up comment.
It's up to the chair.
Let's-
You've got other people
Yeah,
going
let's
on.
get
So.
moving. Mr. Fairman, and then we'll come back around.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The previous ordinance really doesn't have any bearing on what we're talking about here, because this is a new ordinance being addressed by people who are bringing, my colleague and I are bringing a new perspective. Now, I'm going to speak under four headings. The first one is invalid statutory authority. The second is no statutory authority. The third is language of ordinance contradicts stated intent. And the fourth is indebting all recipients of Putney Fire and EMS fire services. I shall be as brief as I can. You shall receive copies. The public have copies. The notice of public hearing references an authority, which is 24 V.S.A. section 4442. It is unclear in the way this has been written whether that authority refers to the public hearing or whether it refers to the ordinance. But in either case, 24 V.S.A. section 4442 actually applies to a proposed planning bylaw amendment or repeal prepared by or at the direction of the Town of Putney Planning Commission, having the purpose of implementing the Town of Putney Town Plan, which is why however it is being applied as statutory authority here, it is invalid. Now, no statutory authority. Vermont is a Dillon's rule state where municipal powers and functions have been specifically authorized by the Vermont General Assembly and Vermont statutes, and the Vermont Supreme Court state that, quote, it requires us to resolve any doubts concerning a grant of power against the municipality, unquote. Town of Putney ordinances therefore usually begin by citing Vermont statutes specifically authorizing them. This ordinance in itself does not cite any Vermont statute authorizing it because there is no statute specifically authorizing the Town of Putney to charge mitigation rates. As per Dillon's rule and the Vermont Supreme Court, Vermont Superior Court would resolve any doubts concerning our grant of power against the Town of Putney. This ordinance does not say what our Town of Putney Select Board claim it says. To say what our Select Board claim it says, a replacement ordinance's title would be an ordinance to recover costs of deploying the Putney Fire and EMS Department to incidents involving commercial motor vehicles transporting passengers or hazardous materials. Whether such incident is on a town, state, or interstate highway in this town or another town doesn't matter. Indebting all recipients of Putney Fire and EMS Department fire services. Section 2 of this ordinance states, a claim shall be filed to the responsible parties through their insurance carrier. Now I'm quoting here the Cornell Law School Wex Legal Dictionary. Shall is an imperative command, usually indicating that certain actions are mandatory and not permissive, unquote. An insurance policy is a contract between the insurance carrier and the insured, who must file and approve a valid claim for payment, not exceeding the insurance policy's stated limit of any coverage of the cost of fire services. Billing for fire services creates a debt owed by the recipient to the Town of Putney for the total cost of fire services provided rendered to this recipient, who may or may not have homeowners or renters insurance coverage of these fire services. Homeowners or renters fire service coverage, if any, is limited to from $500 to $1,000 per loss, no deductible, that the insurer will pay if it decides that the claim is valid. The recipient of fire services will legally owe to the Town of Putney the uninsured balance of a bill for these fire services, subject to usual collection actions and credit rating consequences. To forgive legally everyone's uninsured balance owed to the Town of Putney for fire services, this ordinance would have to so state. Our Town of Putney have adopted an ordinance to bill recipients for costs of fire services to recoup as much as possible of just $48,000 amid our $3.5 million budget. I'm going to give to you, as usual, copies of what I've said. I'm also attaching my budget analysis that I did of the actual cost of providing fire services, which is $48,000 in the next fiscal year, as 1.36% of our total budget, and that is of $371,000 total cost we're paying for the fire department. You also will find attached a petition for a permissive referendum special town meeting to disapprove of this ordinance. The petition has been approved by our town clerk, and copies are or will be in circulation. We shall need about 105 signatures, our town clerk tells me. Thank you, and as per usual, I hand these to our great town manager.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I don't have written out remarks.
If you can just state your name, please.
Yeah, Mary Houghton, I live over on Old Depot Road. I was kind of appalled when I heard about this proposed ordinance because I feel like we're already paying for services through our taxes. And listening to everybody, if the intent is that a claim may be filed, then rather than argue over the meaning of shall, why not just change it to may and simplify everything? This document that I think is supposed to be a policy, but really is, as Jeanette said, a rate schedule, really reads like it's an addendum to a contract. It's like attachment A to a contract, and it's very unclear who is you and who is we and exactly what would happen. None of which is clear in the ordinance either. Mitigation rates are based on average billing levels. Average of what? Where? Average of Putney, Vermont, the United States? That's also unclear. So I would really like for the select board to reconsider this whole deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Janice?
Hi, Janice Baldwin, River Road, Putney. I'm just sort of catching up with all this, but when I was reading some of the earlier remarks in the last meeting, I thought Fletcher said that the intent of this was really for it only to be applicable more to incidents happening on the state highway and other places, not so much for fire support for the residents. Is that accurate?
That's the intent, yes.
But that's not spelled out in the ordinance at all. And if that's the intent, it really should be. That's the audience here.
Well, it's written broadly on purpose because beyond the highway, there's also, there are times where we might want to bill for repeat offenders or a particularly egregious event. So in order not to tie our hands there and have to change the ordinance later, we made it broad. But the intent is to primarily bill highway services because we don't get reimbursed for those.
I understand that. I would recommend you state those criteria in the ordinance because obviously people are confused and concerned and perhaps unnecessarily. But I would certainly like to see those criteria spelled out.
I think people are getting confused by the ordinance versus the policy, and the rate schedule, which I've been hearing about, which we don't have. That's not a thing. So what we're doing right now is, and I'd also like to point out that Mr. Fairman is correct. The ordinance that is referenced is about bylaws. We are not required to have public hearings. It's a little bit confusing to have a public hearing after we've already adopted an ordinance. But in any event, we're talking about the ordinance itself, which is a legal document. It's got force of law. The next piece for the select board is to come up with a policy and a rate schedule. So in the policy, we can specify what the rules are, so to speak. But the ordinance itself is purposely broad.
Will the community have the opportunity to respond to the policy?
Yeah. I mean, it's it's open meeting law, and everyone has input, and yeah, I think we've always been open to public input on ordinances and policies.
Thank you.
Jeanette?
So I will say this is not an update to the old policy, the old ordinance. The old ordinance does actually say that under the definitions or under one section, it does give the ability to set rates and to, right here, invoicing reimbursement rates for any incident and or occurrence shall be established by the Board of Selectpeople. So it does give the authority to do that. You did not need to have a new ordinance to do that. It is here in the old ordinance. And this, what you're proposing to pass here and to adopt is not an ordinance. It is simply, it only says three things. We shall establish a rate. We shall bill insurance companies and in some cases, the responsible party, and it shall be effective in 30 days. So the whole ordinance is, I would have been laughed out of the Senate if I had tried to pass a bill like this that had the force of law behind it. This does not, it has no definitions, it has no enforcement, it has nothing in it, and it does not say only certain people will be billed, and who's going to make the determination of when it gets built and when it doesn't get built. I think this is a really, it is poorly written. It is not an ordinance. And if you had wanted to do an ordinance, you could have taken the old one reviewed it, looked at the definitions to see if they made sense. You could have made new definitions and you could have done that. But it has all the components of an ordinance. The definitions, the responsible parties, the enforcement, who enforces, and attached to it is a rate schedule. You could have updated the rate schedule even without updating the ordinance, but you didn't. You chose to completely ignore the old ordinance and establish a new one that isn't an ordinance. And one of my questions is, did this pass muster with the town attorney?
Hasn't gone to the town attorney.
So you're saying that it's going to be effective in 30 days, which is an error, unless there's a permissive referendum called for.
Well, it's as permitted by law, so it's actually 60, and that is a typo. I hear what you're saying, Jeanette. We've already passed it, and there's a petition circulating to disprove it, and if it gets disproved, we'll start over.
Mr. Fairman, or Jeanette, you all done? Yeah. Mr. Fairman.
Mr. Chairman, it is clear, and I certainly am respectful because you are our elected legislative body, that you've already adopted this ordinance and you fully intend to maintain it pending a permissive referendum. I have been right along, and now I'm going to do a bit of a summarization. I am summarizing, if Attorney Proctor were here, he would understand. I am establishing matters of fact and matters of law. Select Person Tulloch said that the ordinance has been written broadly so it can be applied as you decide you would like to apply it. Now, last time we were here, I shared with you how the Vermont Supreme Court looks at statutes. This is a statute. They look at the plain, ordinary meaning of the statutory language. Now, that is law in Vermont. Now, if we look at the plain, ordinary meaning of the statutory language versus what you say this is for, it does not say that it does not say that it will apply only to incidents on the highway. And of course, it really doesn't matter whether it's the interstate or any other highway. The incident is the same. It simply does not say so. Now, beyond that, in Vermont statutes, I've looked through the statute that applies to municipalities, which is 24, that applies to select board appointments and various other matters, which is 17, and also 20, which is public safety. Only once is any sort of exchange of money mentioned regarding the fire departments. It is 20 V.S.A. section 2963, outside aid by fire departments, which specifically authorizes a municipality to decide to reimburse another municipality for its costs of providing rendering mutual aid. That's it. In Dillon's Rule, Vermont, the town of Putney has no statutory authority whatsoever to charge mitigation rates, because if you did, it would be in statute. Because for you to have authority to do anything in Dillon's Rule, Vermont, it must be in the statute, and there is no such statute. Now, if necessary, I can bring an action in Vermont Superior Court at Newfane, or I can move for summary judgment, because there is no disagreement as to matters of fact and as to matters of law, because there is no statutory authority. You have no case whatsoever. Now here, I'm not speaking as a lawyer, I'm speaking pro se, representing myself. So no one should think for a moment that I am anything than not a lawyer, as I always sign myself. But this is the situation we are in. You have gone far beyond what you are allowed to do. Now, fine, you believe you are doing right. This is a public forum, and some people here believe that you are not doing right. Well, the way we will resolve this is through the permissive referendum, if in fact, at least as of a week ago Monday, we needed 103 signatures. Who knows what it is today, but the town clerk said, if you're in 120 signatures, it'll be okay. And then by law, you shall call a special town meeting. Now, There's only one thing that is of interest here. There's the Office of the Secretary of State has not yet replied answering this question. Would a permissive town meeting be by Australian ballot or floor vote? Because the statute is unclear on that subject. Yes, as you all know, and I know too, we have to vote to decide town meeting questions by Australian ballot, otherwise it's a floor vote. But the permissive referendum statute says, or I should say, refers to each polling place. Well, if there's more than one polling place, it is by definition an Australian ballot because it's going to be spread out. Now, beyond that, referendum in a legal dictionary is defined as an election. And in a legal dictionary, an election is defined as involving the casting of ballots. But because there's a bit of a blank space in these two Vermont laws, the Office of the Secretary of State is considering what to do, and we haven't heard from them yet. The town clerk and I have initiated this at the same time that he approved the wording of the petition. So we'll have to get back to you on that because they have to get back to us on that. So, you know, this is an interesting situation, and there's no reason to feel at all disappointed in each other. We are having an actual public debate about a very important question. And yes, indeed, Mr. Chairman, I entirely agree with you. This is how we govern ourselves in Vermont. So thank you for listening to us. And I'm pretty sure I know where we're headed from here, but we have to get there first.
Thank you, Mr. Fairman. Peg?
There we go. Just trying to unmute myself. Okay, I would like to make a motion that 2 select board members meet to review the newly adopted mitigation ordinance and bring to the August 20th select board meeting their recommendation for that ordinance.
What's for what?
I would like to recommend that 2 select board members meet and do some more work on this or review this ordinance. I don't know, do some more work reviewing this ordinance and the concerns that are have been raised by the public, perhaps talk to the Larry, our lawyer, and come back to the select board meeting with recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
I'm not sure that it's,
I guess we can do that without a
Excuse me, can I ask, what's the process, Ian Don's on, what's the process here for discussing this? I mean, the suggestion, it seems like it's just common sense and makes sense to review it.
So this is why this is backwards. So we shouldn't be having public hearings after we've adopted the ordinance. We've already adopted the ordinance. We're having a public hearing on the adopted ordinance.
Right.
So if we want to, I don't even know what the process is to rescind an ordinance before it's been adopted, before it's legally adopted, but it's not on our agenda right now. This is a public hearing. We're not here to adopt or rescind. So I guess what
can I just say, I am not proposing that we adopt or rescind the ordinance.
I'm not sure what the point of meeting to go over it would be.
The point from my point of view is that a few select board members can take some of the concerns that have been heard and take it out of this particular forum and do some more work on looking at the ordinance and bring their opinions back to the select board in August. It just seems to me like we need to do more work on this, whether we did it backwards or not. That is kind of a moot point. At this point, it is clear to me that we need to do some more. We need to work some more on this. We need to consider this more. And so I think we'll be more likely to be able to consider it if we get a couple people to agree to dive into it, where we don't need to have a quorum, we don't need to have it be a public forum right now, but we've got a lot of concerns in front of us, and I would like a few people to take that and dig into that some more with some of the concerns that we've heard and bring that back to the select board.
Yeah, Mary Houghton again. I appreciate that suggestion. I think since Howard raised several legal issues, you might, if I were in your shoes, I would want to start by consulting the town lawyer about the issues that Howard raised before doing anything else, because those seem to me very fundamental. Thanks.
And I feel that the best way to do that is for two of us as select board members to take this on and to further that process, to commit to continuing that process.
Jeanette?
Okay, so the problem with that, it is kind of problematic because by August 3rd, there needs to be this, the petition filed, because that's 44 days after June 11th when it was passed. So it needs to be filed by then. If you're gonna take it on and rework this in any way, not in a public meeting, as was pointed out, but just reworking it, it isn't going to do anything more. And you're going to miss, the public will miss the opportunity to file this referendum, the petition for a referendum. So it's, it seems that people have already been working on this, and the only, as far as I can tell, the only solution here is to rescind it and start over again, or have the public meeting and the special town meeting and hear from the public, and then say, well, we're gonna go ahead anyway, or we're gonna rescind it. And I just wanna do one more thing and then I'll really be quiet. I just wanna point out that the old ordinance was really an ordinance. It had all the components of what needs to be in an ordinance. This one does not. And I would like to point out that one of the original people that filed that ordinance, whether it complied with Vermont Dillon's law or not, is John Knopper, and he is here. He was on the select board when this ordinance was passed, and although I do have would have taken some issues with it is far, far better than the one that's being proposed. Thank you.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing stopping us from, no, there's nothing stopping us from letting it take into effect and then making amendments to it either. So if we want to put on the agenda to rescind it next meeting, then we can do that. But the process of taking in concerns off meeting doesn't sound right to me. My preference would be to let the public petition if they feel that that's necessary, possibly have a town meeting, special town meeting to approve or disapprove. Don't know which way it will go. And then depending on where that stands, we can work on reworking it. The process here needs, and it is an ordinance, so it's not just let's rework it in the dark room kind of thing. So that's, I mean, I don't care one way or the other.
I would rather, I don't think we got it right, and I think that we've heard from a lot of people, and that if it means taking more time to do it, I think I'd rather rescind it and start fresh.
Okay, then I think we should put that on as
Next agenda.
I'm sorry.
to properly warn it.
So one person thought, I'm sorry, you spoke very softly, we couldn't hear you.
That was
On
me.
which part? Sorry. I was saying that I think if we want to talk about rescinding it, we should warn it on the next agenda to rescind it, as opposed to the way that it's written here.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, regarding Select Person Alden's proposal, it is a worthy proposal, but there is a very fundamental and serious problem with it regarding the remote open meeting law. When members of a select board are not present as a quorum, two is not a quorum, they are not allowed to discuss anything that is within their jurisdiction or could come before them for consideration. Now, when a quorum meets, it is an official meeting, and therefore it must be duly warned and is fully subject to the remote open meeting law. And therefore, two select persons meeting is simply not possible legally under the remote open meeting law. What you really have to do there is say that at least 3, because 3 is your quorum. But now you are having an official meeting. Select boards are not allowed to meet privately, period, except for executive session, which under 1 V.S.A. Section 313, there's a series of reasons you must choose, and only those are valid, and there is no reason for an executive session for what is being proposed. So it is going to be a public meeting, and it is going to involve a quorum being present, or it is going to be illegal.
Thank you. Peg?
Okay. I would like to propose then that we put it on the agenda for the next meeting, that we rescind the new ordinance. And so I'm clear about that. I would like to do that. And then I would like us to work on, and I'm open to hearing what people think the process should be from there in designing a new ordinance. So I'm sorry, I've got a mosquito here in my face. I will retract my motion and make a motion to put it on the agenda for the next meeting to discuss.
Sending.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, I don't know
Do we need a-
I don't know that we need a motion for that, but if you want to make it official, we can vote on
We
that.
just put it on the next
Don't
agenda.
leave her hanging with the mosquito.
Yeah, leave you. The mosquito gets. Did you get it?
Well, okay.
Do you want to make it official, just so that
Yes, I do.
we promise that we're gonna put it on the next agenda? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we'll vote on it.
Okay. You second it?
I do.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would like
Aye.
I would like us, well, let's wait until then to make a plan about where to go from there. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right, can I hear a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
Motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, Mr.
Before
Fairman.
we do, I would simply like to compliment you for conducting, compliment our town of Putney Select Board for conducting an excellent public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right,
Right, I'd like to just suggest that going forward, when we do ordinances, that we have the public hearing before we adopt the ordinance and not afterwards. It makes it a lot harder.
Seems like a good idea.
Because we're not required to have, this is again, we're not required to have public hearings on ordinances that are not about bylaws or town plans. It's probably a good idea though. But we definitely should do it before we adopt and not after, because it's clearly confusing. And once we've adopted it, we start a process that is hard to stop.
Undo, yeah.
Jeanette.
So you might be interested to know that I've been working with a current legislator to introduce a bill next year that would clarify the poorly written statute as it exists right now to require when ordinances are to be adopted that the postings happen before the adoption and the public hearing happen before the adoption.
Mhm.
So you will see that bill
Okay.
in January.
Can you announce that?
I was going to say
It's
that's a good
perfect timing.
segue to announcing that there is an ordinance and adoption and enforcement webinar. I think it's a webinar
Yes,
um,
VLCT.
for VLCT.
16th.
The 16th,
You're
9:30
signed up.
a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm going to be on vacation. I'm not going.
This really inspired me to sign up.
But anyway, there is training on the current adoption rules out there for select boards, and I guess anybody who's a VLCT member.
There are templates too for ordinances
Yeah.
and policies from VLCT.
Yeah.
I will say, this is the most I've seen since I've been town manager
Mm-hmm.
with trying to review and update ordinances.
A lot of them need to be updated. And
Well, we do, we're supposed to be doing them every year.
Yeah.
Select board looks through the list and we update them as we can.
Well, I guess we're still in the hearing. Can we
Yeah.
adjourn?
Sorry.
Your motion, adjourn.
Let's move on.
All in favor?
I
Aye. You're supposed to raise your hands.
just did.
All right, time's up. Call the select board meeting 6:11. Adjustments to the agenda.
I'd like to add one more executive session. It's one V.S.A. 313 1E, which is pending civil litigation.
Okay, Karen, anything else?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, pardon me, Ms. Tollett, Select Person Tollett, I'm not sure that we heard which the executive session is for.
It's for civil litigation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, select board announcements, comments from Eric, anything?
I have a bunch of announcements here, but Karen, I just announced one, so that's done. The Discover Putney and the Brattleboro Regional Chamber of Commerce is doing a summer mixer on Wednesday, July 23rd from 5 to 7 p.m. Is that a select board day?
Yep,
They do that all the time.
I know.
I guess they don't want us there. It's at the Putney Diner. So I think there's an RSVP. Yeah, there's an RSVP on here, and there's a QR code. So if anybody wants that. There's a blood drive at the Putney Fire Station on Thursday, July 10th. Tomorrow at 12:30 to 5 p.m. That's at the fire station. I think I said that.
Yeah.
And then, oh gosh, there's a note. So the Windham Regional Commission began the process of updating the Windham Regional Plan in the fall of 2022, and they have finished their proposed Windham Regional Plan update, and there's a public hearing. This is an example of when a public hearing is actually supposed to be happening for Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025 at 12, and on Thursday, July 24th, 2025 at 6, at their offices at 139 Main Street, Suite 505 in Brattleboro, and it's remote via Zoom. There's no Zoom. Oh, if you go to their website, I guess there's a Zoom link on there. So those are the announcements that I've got.
Okay.
I think that's it, right? Did I do it all?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Public comments on items not on the agenda. Sheriff Anderson.
I wasn't planning on coming to make an announcement, but thank you for making those announcements, because I actually realized I had one. Our much acclaimed regional policing meetings, we're scheduling them for July 30th, 31st, August 4th and August 6th. You don't have to write that down. You will get this in writing. But we're working on finalizing locations. We'll be 4 in the county for public meetings where we talk about regional policing and what we've been talking about now with towns, select boards, town managers, town administrators, of which Putney has very much been along for the discussion the last 2 years. So we will get you the invitation, location, all that information to the town. We're just working on finalizing the specific locations, which is what is the reason I can't say when in Putney and what time and where. We don't know who has the availability at the moment, but we're finalizing that right now. So we'll get you those dates. We'll also anticipate having after we collect all the public comment through those 4 meetings, we'll have a separate meeting at a date to be determined in September or thereabouts, depending on what can happen, but that's the goal. So we can be in preparation for the legislative session. Just wanted to give you an update on that.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, 2 points. First, I need to ask our town manager a question about my first point. The beautiful gardens out front here, I've spoken with the people. I know they are professionals. Can you tell us the name of the people or company?
They're all individuals,
Oh,
every single one of them, and Naomi is the head gardener,
ah.
and, yeah.
So they're sort of a private practice, not
Right.
a company or something?
No.
Well, I certainly can say to anybody who's looking for someone to take care of their flower gardens, you know whom to call.
Yes, they're beautiful.
And they can ask you how to get in contact.
Yes.
Because, and I've told them, you know, you folks are excellent. Now, Mr. Chairman, to a more serious matter. Tuesday afternoon, Windham and Windsor Housing Trust convened an outdoor Putney Landing public community meeting for residents to converse with councilors about the trooper-involved shooting Monday afternoon and the traumatic events beforehand and afterward. This, of course, was a private meeting on private property for we residents of that property. I live there. A non-resident joined us. Asked why he was there, Doug Grant referenced his membership in the Town of Putney Zoning Bylaw Modernization Subcommittee of the Town of Putney Planning Commission. Had he realized that he was violating privacy of personal relationships between councilors and residents who were being there for each other, dealing with the aftermath of a very traumatic circumstances beyond our control, Mr. Grant could have decided to leave, but did not leave until he was repeatedly challenged, apparently because he believed that he was there in an official capacity. I therefore take the liberty of publicly suggesting that our Town of Putney Select Board remove Mr. Grant from that subcommittee because he is unaware of the strict limits of his role. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I first of all want to address that incident. It was deeply shocking to me that that had occurred, and I know that it was definitely traumatizing to the residents of Putney Landing. I know you're a very tight-knit community, and I also feel for the officer involved as well. Whether it should have happened or not, he will live with that for the rest of his life. It was a tragic experience. It was tragic all the way around. And I also want to make a statement again about the use of social media around these events. Somebody died. They were a Putney resident. They were a brother. They were a friend. They were a son. And they were a human being. And to use their death to score political points or to speculate on larger issues is not okay. We're all Putney residents. These things touch all of us in real time. So I want people to step back a moment and maybe not post that comment. Maybe talk about it in real time with your friends. There is a place and time for philosophical comments, or philosophical discourse, but Facebook's not it. And to your point, I have already made a statement about Putney committees, committee members acting on their own and going onto private property that is not, it's not, the select board did not authorize that, and neither did the planning commission. So acting on your own when you're on a committee is definitely grounds for dismissal.
Mr. Fairman.
Mr. Chairman, to characterize it a bit further from the point of view of residents of Putney Landing, I live in that building. There is one unit between me and the unit where it happened. That unit has been, the newly renovated interior of that unit now has been trashed. What we were afraid of was that it would be set afire. Now, the central mechanical room for the entire complex is in our building. If our building had been destroyed or made uninhabitable, the entire Putney Landing complex of 12 townhouses and 6 apartments would have been uninhabitable for a very long time. Where to put us all? Good question. There's a lot of families, there's a lot of elderly people, there's a lot of little kids. What's going to happen? So it actually was, from our perspective, it was an extremely grave situation. Now that is not to mention our having been terrorized before the barricading happened by someone who certainly is formidable, shall we say. 4 young men decided they wouldn't take him on. 4 strong young men decided they wouldn't take him on. Okay, so that is the gravity of the situation that we were facing. And this is why the state troopers could not let it go until dark that day. It could not have gone into overnight, period. Time simply ran out. But please, everyone, bear that in mind. We all live there, and we came very, very close to being homeless. If we set that building on fire, we would be. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug?
Well, I certainly didn't expect to be called on the carpet like this. I came on the Zoom today because I'm concerned about the state police protocols for going in with a gun and not a taser. So my question to you was going to be, and is there anything the town can do to influence protocol of the state police to exhaust every opportunity and then put the guns away and go in with a taser? If they had gone in with a taser, Scott Garter would be alive today.
I think
that's the only reason I came, to ask for your guidance and maybe ask you to do something with the state. I don't know what the answer is.
I think that it's way too early to speculate what actually happened. That's part of what my statement was about. I've seen a lot of speculation. There's literally next to no information, public information about this. I would urge everyone to wait until the state police conduct their investigation before speculating further. And as far as police protocols, this board is not equipped to tell the state police what their protocols should be. So I urge everyone to hold your opinions and your speculations until the actual truth comes out.
I thank you for your comment earlier, Eileen. So I made my point. I know Vermont is a gun state, and they're not going to get rid of guns. But if the protocol could be that the gun be a second line of defense, they went in with a key that was given to them, as I understand it, and he probably responded in some crazy way. But a taser would have taken him down without killing him. Okay, so to respond to Mr. Foreman, he was late to the party. I was invited there by some friends, and I went there out of concern as to what I wanted to gather information for me personally, not for my position on the zoning bylaws board. Because Mr. Fairman came after I had already explained to Elizabeth, and by the way, I applaud Elizabeth Bridgewater and her staff for what they did. I thought it was excellent what they did. I went there as an individual, as a friend, invited to go, and I explained that. And then Howard arrived on the scene and something happened. He asked a question or something, and I maybe responded improperly, and I apologize for that. And he obviously took it seriously that I was trying to violate my position. I was not there as a member of the zoning bylaw committee. I was there as an individual, and maybe I said something that was incorrect, and I apologize for that, Howard.
Thank you, Doug. Howard, I don't want to get back into a back and forth, so if you got something else.
This is not a back and forth,
Okay.
so it's a matter of fact.
Go ahead.
Yes, I was late to the meeting. Elizabeth Bridgewater, Executive Director of Windham and Windsor Housing Trust, said to Mr. Grant, you know, essentially, in essence, you don't live here, and you are participating in a very intimate discussion among people who have been deeply traumatized by something that just happened to them. You should consider carefully whether you should be here. Then he mentioned zoning credentials, and I said, what possible relevance could zoning have to what we are doing here right now? There was further exchange with other people, with the result that finally Mr. Grant decided to withdraw, but it is simply a point of he had no right to be there in the first place.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, moving on. Approval of minutes, June 25th, 2025.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of June 25th, 2025.
Second. Any changes?
I think I don't have any changes.
I wasn't here.
Okay. Peg, nothing? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Warrants the treasurer.
Yeah. Hey, I'm here. Still with you.
Make a motion to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review.
Second.
Oh, you, Karen.
Okay. Payroll warrant dated July 11th, 2025 in the amount of $35,648.68. You will see lifeguards in this warrant. And just to be upfront, there's two checks in there for me. One is my vacation pay at the end of the fiscal year.
Does that mean you didn't take vacation?
That means not enough, yeah.
Bad Karen.
It won't happen. The next 3 years, it won't happen.
Okay.
Okay?
Life's too short.
Yeah, the beach was nice.
I don't see anything in there.
Okay.
Want to start with that?
Yep.
Okay. So accounts payable dated June 28th through June 11th, 2025 in the amount of $87,495.86. And I will let the board know that $22,818.27 is being booked back to last fiscal year. So it's payments that need to go.
We're in that cuspy area.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
There's really nothing. The only thing, there is, Simon's Operations did have some extra work because of the water break. You'll see that on page 3. So instead of their $12,000 bill, it was $15,555. So anything outside of their normal contracting, like operating services, it gets billed hourly.
The blue book is part of the wastewater too, right?
That is correct. There are maybe 3 appropriated in which are already in the general fund budget that we paid out in this warrant. So Windham Regional Commission, SEVAs, and Windham County Humane Society.
Okay, any public comments? All in favor?
I'm the one raising my hand.
Who's
that?
Peg did.
I missed that memo.
It was the
Oh, speak up, say who
speak
you are,
up,
raise
say
your
you
hand.
are, yeah,
Right.
All right, I'll
raise
do
your
that.
hand.
Town manager's report.
Quickly, so tax billing for 2025. All of the invoices are in the mail as of today. 1,014 tax invoices were stuffed and out the door. There are 586 homesteads in Putney and 428 non-homesteads. So that's like almost half.
Homesteads that didn't file homesteads? Or
No,
homesteads that
like
actual homesteads,
Yes.
whether they filed or not?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. If you haven't filed a homestead exemption form, please do so even if you're collecting Social Security and have lived in Vermont for 1 year or more. We find that some people just don't file because they don't know that they should. And that saves a little money on property taxes. Taxes are calculated in 4 installments moving forward because it was voted on at town meeting. So hopefully this will help the folks who may be financially burdened. So August 15th, November 21st, 2025, February 20th, and May 15, 2026 are the due dates. There's a flyer in each envelope explaining how to pay, and there's more information on the town website, or you can contact the office. I can say we level funded the municipal, and it appears that the state education for Putney was level funded. It was down just a little bit.
Sense, yeah.
Yep. So it was 3 cents for municipal, down 3 cents. So look for your homestead exemptions, people. Make sure you file those. Internal audit is scheduled for July 28th through July 30th. We received the checklist today and our orders, which Kim has almost perfected the process, which has been the last 2 years. So we're going to jump into that shortly. We should be able to accommodate the schedule. Personnel policy is almost in final draft format. Kim and I need to inquire with BLCT. We have about 4 questions. Probably a gray area, but we're going to ask them anyway. And a copy of the personnel policy was sent to Board Member Proctor and to Swift. There will be a final draft though, but there shouldn't be many changes. My office would like to thank an anonymous donor for funding 93 pool memberships for Putney residents. 93 memberships.
That's nice.
Yeah. This was a very kind and generous gift to the community, and I just want to say thank you very much. And I'm sure these families thank you as well.
Yeah, I thank you. My kids got one.
Great. Yeah. It was
Excellent.
generous offer.
Yeah, really cool.
Yep.
Karen?
Yes.
Where are those, who's getting those memberships? And if somebody wants one, how would they access that?
Putney Central School.
Yeah, Putney Central School was the lead, Peg. And I'm not sure if it's still open at this point. But it did go through the school. They came to us first, but we knew the school had a better resource and network. So
Great.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the pool is very active with summer camps and have added movie night, water aerobics, and open swim lessons on the weekends. So the best news is the pool is holding water for the first time in years. So yeah, I'm just so, and it looks great up there. So if you haven't been to the pool, check out the town website because the schedule is on there, and Facebook, Friends for Putney Pool. They have a Facebook
They have a
post.
Facebook
Yes.
page and they post
Yeah.
the schedule.
Yeah.
And don't park on the side of the road.
Yeah, and please do not park in the right of way, which is the roadway going down to the pool. We're gonna try to manage the parking a little better. It's very tight in there. When you have 6 guards on duty, and I'm thinking you have 6 cars already. You get some vans down there because of daycares and, camps.
Yeah.
And it gets really tight in there, and nobody knows enough to park in the middle. They leave this big open space, and I'm like, all right. And we can't line the parking lot because it's dirt.
If people can park badly, they will.
But we are gonna talk to Putney Central School and see if some overflow parking can be in the back lot.
Yeah.
So, but it's very active up there right now, so please enjoy.
Maybe you can get the lifeguards to park up there.
Yeah, I think that's the first request.
Yeah.
So I'm working with the library to write a draft request for proposal for heat pumps at the library. They have some, but 2 are not working, and the library has been limping along for like 2 years with their air conditioners right now, so they're not heat and air. They do need to be upgraded, but I'm working with them, and I'll be coming back to the select
Or
board.
were they never heat in here? Or they just, the heat part doesn't work, or
No, it's just strictly air.
it's just air?
Yeah, because they have the oil furnace, so. But now they're gonna get both, combination.
Cool.
We'll see. I know Efficiency Vermont is running a rebate program right now, so we're gonna try to capitalize on that. And they did not get the grant to get these heat pumps, so it got pulled back.
Of course.
Yeah. So I also briefly want to mention the situation that unfolded on Monday afternoon off of Putney Landing Road. As town manager, I am aware that our emergency services personnel were at the same address the night before for the same situation. My concern is for the safety of our emergency personnel to handle a crisis of this magnitude. Fortunately, our personnel are trained to announce who they are and what agency they're with. I was told there was a crisis manager on the phone at the time. Putney Fire and Rescue were at the scene on Sunday. I also know that for whatever reasons, police presence was not available on Sunday night. And we did try to contact 4 different agencies. What happened Monday afternoon in Putney is a tragic event, and it will impact many people and families. I look to the select board to urge the state of Vermont to reevaluate the system and to fund social agencies that can handle situations like this in the next legislative session. So, that's all I have.
I agree with you.
Is that it? Mr. Chairman?
Pardon me. Mr. Chairman, a couple of points regarding the pool. First one is Windham and Windsor Housing Trust sends its Putney residents text messages now and again. And we got one just the other day. It was this Tuesday. Last Tuesday. Quote, "We are pleased to share that the Putney pool is now free of charge for all Putney residents." My understanding is that that actually is not true.
Yeah.
Okay, I will notify Windham and Windsor Housing Trust.
And I can tell you there are passes at the library. There are pool passes to sign out.
Sure.
And people can use those.
I know that the person who sent the message doesn't live in Putney.
Yeah,
And I didn't know, so I thought I would ask, and I will pass the word back.
thank you.
Okay. Now, the other point is, you mentioned that the pool parking lot is dirt and therefore cannot be lined. Actually, it can be using the equipment that is used for lining sports fields. Now, I don't know how feasible that is, but the same thing they use for, soccer pitches or football fields or whatever, where I think they use chalk.
Yeah.
You see them rolling it along. It might be possible to do that, and I don't know how much it costs, but there's that possibility. Thank you.
Well,
Or
they
actual
also,
line.
yeah, they also, redo them like the 7th inning or so because they wear away, right? So I'm not sure it would really be practical to try to do that on a dirt road with cars
We'll figure it
driving
out.
over it.
It's the first year that we've had this problem.
It's a good problem to have.
Yes, I
It's a
agree.
whole party. Cones are like
Do
actual.
you have something else, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman?
Pardon me?
Something else?
Yes, one question just came to mind from what was just said. Is there overflow parking possible at Putney Central School?
We're looking into that.
Uh-huh.
We're gonna have a discussion with John Sessions.
Peg's got her hand.
Peg?
Yeah, Eric, you want to tell people about the community supper on Friday?
Yep. We can do that. Let's finish out what we need to, Heather.
I just wanted to
Well,
touch base on.
the reason why I was putting it here was because I felt like it relates to the fire department, which I feel like relates to Karen's report. So, but whenever you want to do it, I just want to make sure it gets announced.
Right.
Am I
Go
here now? Okay. I just wanted to touch base on what Karen said in that fire and EMS safety is not just a here thing. It is not just a Vermont thing. This has been, in my career, 25 years, the safety of fire and EMS responding to mental health crises has been an issue. I can attest that in my 10 plus years in Vermont, it has been the biggest struggle within this state, but it is a global problem in that it's not law enforcement and it's not medical, but medical goes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And yes, just a reminder, the community dinner is Friday night.
Who's hosting it?
Fire department.
Somebody is hosting.
The Putney Fire and Rescue. Woohoo! Spaghetti and meatballs, right? Salad.
Yes.
Logan, you're gonna be there, right?
And we'll be there.
I have my own shirt.
Any other comments on the town manager's report? No.
Maybe a question. When it comes to warrants, the treasurer, are those left out on purpose, or why are they not in like the public packet?
I don't put it on the website because there's stuff in there that, like the employee names and all that stuff. I don't like putting it out there.
Okay.
So, what are you looking for
I just-
specifically?
transparency, I guess. People wanted to add the numbers and subtract the numbers and do the math and make sure the math maths. And it's hard to do if it's not posted in the other packet portions.
Well, there is no math to like calculate because we have a NIMRIC program that adds everything up. So I go through all the invoices, accounts payable, and I look at all of the payroll. So,
Okay.
yeah.
They are a matter of public record, so you can always ask for them. I can go both ways on that, but it does have basically salary information and people's names and
My
things like
salary's
that.
been posted as a public employee in a number of towns.
Yeah, mine too,
Yeah.
but it's
I don't make much. You're welcome.
right. It's just this day and age, people get their names out there, and then things happen, and it's just
Yeah, I mean, there's too much cyber, stalking and all that stuff, and I'm not comfortable putting it on electronically.
But we could put accounts payable, I mean,
I don't like doing that either because there's certain things that, there's like one thing on that warrant that if you look at it, yeah.
Fair enough.
And then you attach it to a name and I don't think that's
That makes
relevant for public information.
sense. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, it bears mentioning that every penny that is in the warrants is pursuant to the fiscal year budget that we approved and authorized during town meeting. So there's really nothing secret there about the money. And of course, as far as payroll information goes and any other personal information about employees of the town of Putney, that is always private. There is no way that can be public information other than, so many, these were the names of people who are on the highway department or the fire department or whatever. So basically, that's it.
Yeah.
You can know who works here, but that's really all you can know.
Right. I mean, the amounts are on here, and it's also, who gets direct deposit and who doesn't.
Yeah.
It just seems it's a little too personal to put this information on. If we publish salaries, that's one thing. That's the whole salary. But to publish people's names and when they got their check and the check number, it just doesn't seem right.
The other thing I want to mention is the town report has the budget in it, so, your numbers are right there. And, at the end of the year, I give these folks quarterly reports. Those I can give to the public. I don't have an issue with that. But when it comes to, sensitive information, I'm not willing to put it out there.
Fair enough.
All right, moving on, boards, committees, and commissions. Equity and Inclusion Advisory Committee.
Hi. I'm Swift Everty, and I am here to read a statement for Non-Binary Peoples Day, which is July 14th on Monday? I don't know the date. I don't know soon. It's soon, and you folks have already approved flying the flag for 3 days. It'll go up the day before, the day of, and the day after. And what I'm reading is mostly from a today.com article that I found that actually is pretty an interesting perspective about transgender and non-binary folks. So I'm going to read some excerpts from it. This article is called "Transgender and Non-Binary People Have Existed for Centuries, How Different Cultures Recognize Them." In 2025, thus far, 940 anti-trans bills have been introduced in the United States, sparking heated debates over transgender rights. Yet this fight obscures a deeper truth. Transgender and non-binary people have existed throughout human history with distinct roles in cultures around the world. Most every culture has recognized trans people and gender non-conforming people, says Quinn Bishop, a queer history educator and tour guide in New Orleans. It's just that people haven't always accepted them. In American Samoa, there are 4 genders: male, female, fa'afafine, and fa'afatama. unique gender categories that fall outside the binary. Fa'afafine and Fa'afatama have distinct and respected roles in Samoa society. According to Bishop, they have been fully recognized as genders in American Samoa since before the 20th century. In North American indigenous cultures, the term two-spirit refers to individuals who embody both masculine and feminine qualities, recognized by many tribes long before colonization. You see similar identities in other cultures, from India's Hijira to Thailand's Kathui. These identities existed before modern colonial frameworks disrupted them, explains Bishop. Hijira, who are typically male-assigned people who live as women, are a traditionally recognized third gender in India, but their status is complicated by the increasing acceptance of transgender people who don't identify as Hijira. Kathui is usually translated to ladyboy, and they are comparable to transgender women. But both their gender and identity and their role in Thai culture are more complicated than that. I wish we could broaden the scope of our thinking about human history, says Delvin Camp, a historian and host to the podcast Queer Serial. So, when and why did gender identification outside of male and female become a concern? Bishop says it wasn't until Christianity became dominant in Europe that gender nonconformity was framed as a threat to the established social order. She adds that the idea that there are only two genders, male and female, is not only quite new considering the scope of human history, but is also relatively specific to Euro-Christian colonial culture. Transphobia and gender stigma have deep roots, often tied to the rise of colonial powers like the Roman Empire. The rejection of non-binary and transgender people wasn't just about culture, it was also political, says Bishop. So we should be asking ourselves what we can learn about our own society instead of trying to romanticize or appropriate other cultures. It's critical not to fetishize indigenous cultures when learning about gender, says Bishop. Camp agrees, adding that it's equally important to look towards our own future. While there is still a long way to go, the conversation about gender is evolving, Camp says. There will be progress, though not without resistance, and we must be prepared for both.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment on equity and inclusion statement?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. All right, Selectboard New Business. Errors and omissions certificate.
Okay, so I guess Jordy couldn't be here, but this is a little bit of a misnomer because it's neither an error nor an omission on the lister's part, but that's where it belongs. I'll just read this. It's historically the electric utilities have self-reported the taxable value of their infrastructure. This year is different. The state determined values for these utilities that we are obligated to use as our grand list values. We received a list of values from the state, which we used to create a lodged grand list. Subsequent to lodging the GL, the state added an electric utility parcel with a value of $200,100. Because this parcel and value were not included in the lodged GL grand list, approval by the select board is required to make the change. That's because the grand list belongs to the select board once it gets lodged. The new parcel is in the name of Vermont Transco LLC, formerly known as Velco. The parcel number is 006910.UE. So I will make a motion to adopt the errors and omissions certificate for Vermont Transco LLC, span 504-158-11286, in the amount of $200,100.
Second.
Any public comment on that?
So I just want to add that it will add value to our grand list because it wasn't
there before.
timely. Right.
Okay.
So a good thing.
That is a good thing.
It's not the only town this has happened to either. Generally, the number has gone up. So.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, Windham County Sheriff Office contract and review.
All right, so in your packet is the contract for fiscal year 26. I'm late in getting this to you. And late getting it to the sheriff's office too. So I apologize, Sheriff Anderson.
You're still covering us, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So the Town of Putney Select Board and the voters approved the budget for the Windham County Sheriff's Office in late January and then at the March town meeting. This line item is in the general fund operating budget of $130,000. I recommend that the board continue services with Windham County Sheriff's Office for fiscal year 2026 based on the need for policing. The only thing I might want to add, and seeing as Sheriff Anderson is here, is on page 3, item number 3, personnel and hours provided, letter C. Authorized individuals and positions. So I'm listed as town manager. I was wondering if maybe the emergency management director should be listed as well, because that item is specific to asking for services.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking in case of an emergency, the emergency management director may want to call the sheriff's office if I'm not available. Do you have that happen often or not?
I'm measuring my words.
Okay.
The purpose of this section is to designate individuals who can speak on the town's behalf for the purpose of the contract.
Oh no, that would just be me then.
Yeah.
And so the emergency management director, fire department,
Highway department.
the health officer, Mr. Ferriman, could call us and say, this is what we need.
Okay.
An example where this may become a point of concern or contention. I'm making up a scenario where an airplane crashes in the town of Putney that causes a massive catastrophic hazmat situation, search and rescue operations. NTSB needs to come in. All the things that we would see on the news happen. In other communities in Vermont, this has been a train, a derailment. This has been a flood. This has been major stuff. Generally speaking, the town of Putney would have FEMA that would backfill the costs, and you dealt with that before, you know those things.
Right.
But you would basically deficit spend against your contract, and we would amend your contract to do it. That person could do all of these things.
Okay.
So usually towns select people in this position as the select board, town manager, town administrator, equivalent positions. Who you choose is going to be who I say, you told me to do this, this was the authorized representative, and so I did it on your behalf. You can change this at any time, so all I need is just a letter from the select board or your designated authority saying these are the people that we're okay with. If we do that, so you don't have to amend the contract as people or positions change as you do it. But that's the purpose for this section. The services rendered would capture, hey, we need this help, and we do that within the parameters of the contract to say, within the resources we have available, the needs you have, all of the things, we put it together to say, can we or can we not help you with what you need? We'd prefer to help you on everything, but can we do it? Is that a realistic ask?
Okay, thank you.
Let's just keep it as you.
Okay.
So I make a motion to approve the contract for law enforcement services between the Windham County Sheriff's Office and Putney, Vermont. Is there?
There's a motion there. I typed it up for you. Keep going. Is it in front?
No, there's a motion for the bid award.
It's right here.
She's got one there.
You read it.
Motion to approve the Windham County Sheriff's Office service contract as outlined for fiscal year 2026 in the amount of 13000.00. I'm not going to attempt that. The select board authorizes the manager to execute a contract.
Second.
Any public comment? Mr. Fairman?
Mr. Chairman, first a question. Does this contract include our animal control arrangement with the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office?
It does not, that's a separate contract,
Okay.
and that's not prepared yet.
Okay. I have a comment at that time. It is a compliment, so maybe I should also mention it now.
We like compliments.
Excellent
Yes.
service from Deputy Ashley Painter.
Yeah.
I'm not personally involved, but I'm closely aware of a dangerous situation involving, of course, dogs, and it is being handled expertly. And that, in opinion as well, of the people who are directly involved in terms of experiencing the danger. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, Peg.
Yeah, at our last select board meeting, the issue of fair and impartial policing came up in concerns about what's going on across the state and the country. And I believe our Equity and Inclusion Committee was going to look at the fair and impartial policing policy on the website, and I went to look there today, and it's not there, and I'm wondering if the sheriff could speak to that.
I would be happy to. And I'm also going to check our website real quick to make sure the link works. So broadly, the state of Vermont, through statute passed in 2014, through now retired Senator Jeanette White's committee originally. And so Jeanette and I worked on this together many months ago. There's a statewide mandate for reporting on traffic stop race data collection. That's posted available on our website under the data link. We try to update it regularly. It does lag behind about 9 months, and this is just a statutory construct that gives us time to do quality control analysis, make sure that the data that's reported is updated. The policy that you were talking about is also required by the same statute, which directs that all agencies in the state of Vermont have to conform to the baseline statewide policy that is established by the Vermont Criminal Justice Council. That council oversees all Vermont law enforcement training, certifications, revocation of certification, and professional regulation. So they deal with the broad things, and then the same law allows law enforcement agencies to adopt standards that don't conflict with the state law or the state's model policy. And so what that means, we could have a policy but the state has a policy that says what we can or cannot do, and specific to, I think, the topic you're referencing, is related to things around ICE. I know that has been a contentious issue. First and foremost, we don't work with ICE. I don't say that as a statement of policy, position, or anything. We don't even know who ICE is here. It's a 3-letter agency, couldn't tell you where their office is. They're a part of the Department of Homeland Security. We have, I say we, Windham County, Vermont, Southern Vermont, New England does have relationships with Department of Homeland Security investigations. Oftentimes that's for things having to do with child pornography, manufacturing, and things like that. So generally high-end things for which they have resources for. For Vermont law, I believe, effective now, it was effective back in about 2018 as well. But Vermont law also prohibited agencies from entering into agreements specific to civil immigration enforcement without the approval of the governor. That was changed in July 1st. There were some emergency carve-outs that the original law had that have now been removed. So long story short, Vermont law enforcement does not get involved with civil immigration enforcement. We don't work with ICE. Most of that's because this is a small area that is not resourced with federal agencies like other states have. Does ICE exist in the state of Vermont? I don't know. I have seen videos. I think many of us have seen videos from across the country. There's been stories. I've often and frequently received calls at my office about how ICE is conducting raids in Putney or Dummerston or Westminster throughout the county. What we often find is that it's a Vermont law enforcement officer, a state certified officer through the Criminal Justice Council, such as an investigator for the Department of Motor Vehicles following up on fraudulent title, who goes to a location, who is conducting their investigation under Vermont law, and because they're driving a black unmarked SUV, they're associated with ICE. I recently spoke with an immigrant community who said, we've been told that it's the people in black SUVs. Surprise, I have black SUVs, white ones as well. We're not doing immigration enforcement, we're not involved, we don't have the resources. This comes back to my original announcement about regionalized policing and talking about what does Vermont, and more to my concern, what does Windham County communities want for its policing services? We can provide services, we need resources to do that, but it's really a discussion of the people. I can tell you what I think we should do. I can be wrong all day long, it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, there's also the balance of what are we capable of doing, and we're just not resourced to do it. We're trying our best to do the things that the legislature tells us to do and does not provide the resources to do. We all know unfunded mandates. So civil immigration enforcement would absolutely be an unfunded expectation for us to do. I could go into the policy points for, but because the statewide model policy establishes a baseline level, it basically sets a statewide bar, which then removes opinion from it, which is actually a really good thing for what people should or should not be able to expect from their various government services, as well as when they travel throughout the state of Vermont. So I'm happy to go deeper into that. I just know that I can talk a lot, and well, we could spend a few hours just on this topic alone and only skim the top.
Jeanette?
I just wanted to add that any agency that does not adopt any law enforcement agency in the state of Vermont that does not adopt the baseline model policy around anything, not just fair and impartial policing, but use of tasers or whatever the policy is, does not have access to the Criminal Justice Council, which means they can't send potential officers there for training. They can't get help from the Criminal Justice Council. So there is some hammers to hold over their heads in terms of adopting at least the baseline policy.
And just to say that a different way, if I don't have access to the police academy, I can't maintain the certifications, which means my department goes out of business in 1 year. So there is a strong, compelling reason for my department to comply with all state mandated policies. I'm not prepared to talk about the events that occurred on Newman Lane, mainly because I'm not directly involved in the investigation, don't have details. It would be inappropriate for me to comment on things I truly have no knowledge of. And I also appreciate the comments made about withholding comments until we can understand everything. But that said, there was a request for the select board to encourage the state to establish a policy. There's a policy on that as well, which also includes response to mental health enforcement. It's a statewide use of force policy that was created in roughly, I want to say 2021, with that same rule. These statewide policies are also crafted in a way not only to address every agency in the state and allow agencies to craft them specific to their operations. So for example, in my policy, I can write the sheriff, whereas in the state police policy, they would say the colonel. We're allowed to do things like that, but we have to follow the prime points of the model. But generally, these policies are also crafted in a way that say if you don't adopt anything, if you do nothing, you've adopted it as a matter of law. So even if I don't do anything, I've still adopted it. With regards to the fair and impartial policing policy, it just underwent a multi-year update with a variety of stakeholders from across the state, law enforcement, as well as non-law enforcement stakeholders, public interest groups, the Attorney General's office. It's a very in-depth thing, and all that's done through the Criminal Justice Council. They're actually just about to start their work again. This gets reviewed every 2 years. The reason I bring it up is because we just approved it not too long ago, and similar to you reviewing your ordinances, I review all of my policies, and that is one of the freshest ones we have, so it is not at the forefront of my stack of things to review. So we have adopted the baseline model policy, but that's just because we haven't been able to take the resources to apply our current practices with what the model policy says and fill that out. So if you wanted to go on the Vermont Criminal Justice Council's website under the policies section, that's where all the statewide model law enforcement policies are. You could read about those. You could read about the use of force policy, taser policy, and a variety of other policies and how those work. And I'm happy to reach out or follow up with anybody if you want to talk really in the weeds on policy and what it means. I just know in these meetings you have limited time, and it can be important conversations, but it can also, getting in the weeds can take hours.
So I have a question for Sheriff Anderson. Board member Proctor's not here this evening, but he did ask a question regarding the contract in ordinance and enforcements. Can you explain that process on record?
Yes, the town can pass an ordinance, and if you pass an ordinance and we have the authority to enforce it, we can enforce it. That's the one stroke sentence I'll say with resolution. From there, our contract, and it's under, I believe it's the report section, I believe that's section 6, section 4?
6.
No, I think I went right over it. Section 5, facilities, equipment, and documentation provided by the town. So, what the contract says is basically what the town will do is provide me with a copy of your certified ordinance, keep me up to date with what your current copies of ordinances are. You'll keep your ordinances legal and up to date and do the things that you're supposed to do, because I have no way to do that or compel you to do that, because that's not my authority under Title 24. When you do that, then I can enforce your ordinances, and because this is a legislative action of the municipality, if you have an ordinance you want me to enforce, you will avail me of your legal counsel, because they're the ones who helped you draft it, to say, is it done right as we look at the circumstance we're looking to enforce. What that looks like in practice is if you don't do any of those things, I'm not coming at you for violating the contract, I'm just not enforcing the ordinance. And
Correct.
Almost every town in Windham County that I have this contract as basically a standardized model now. We take everyone's input and basically we say, is everyone good with this? Because for me to manage roughly 150 contracts a year for this type of service is a lot if we start adding in new ones. The main point is that oftentimes I find towns have ordinances that are from like 1972, not to criticize 1972, it's just the legislature's done a lot of work since 1972, and we often find they're outdated. And towns have limited bandwidth, limited personnel, resources, all the things that I struggle with as well. So the point is, don't ask me to do something that we find out is illegal, because I get sued, you get sued, everyone looks at each other and says, well, this was not ideal, unless we ensure that we've dotted our I's, crossed our T's, done the things that you want us to do. An example of a town ordinance that we enforce is your recently updated animal control policy or ordinance, and we worked with all the member towns of the animal control program to work with Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns, who crafts a model ordinance for you as part of your membership. So that's actually a cheap and or free way to get up-to-date model ordinances that help you stay up to date. But then it gives you also the decision points of, with animal control as an example, do we want a leash law or an animal controlled by owner's control, voice commands or hand commands or whatever those things. And so those start to become very nuanced town issues, as I'm sure the select board is familiar, but also for TV land. Like these are considerations that need to be made. So with that, the dog ordinance, I think, is the dog ordinance in Putney?
Yes.
And some towns call it the animal ordinance or the animal control ordinance, but no less, to the point of standardization, we're trying to follow VLCT's model policies, and then we craft the service that we provide for you to say, we're gonna do the things that I can train and repeat and standardize so that I don't get you sued, you don't get me sued, everyone's happy about not getting sued when something goes wrong. So with that, that's why the animal control program is designed to provide the services it provides. And when we have a barking dog issue, we can say, we'll provide support, but if you choose to go outside of the realm of the contract of what we support on a barking dog ordinance, you should have the resources to support that. As one piece, just because I've segued into the animal control contract, you're still receiving animal control services. Just like the law enforcement contract, you're still doing it in section 10, we have a renewal notice. I call it out just to say it's there for this purpose. So when you're busy, when I'm busy, when I get the town manager contract in mid-June, and she has to get it warned for a select board meeting, it gives people time so that you're not under the gun. We ran into a lot of unexpected demand through the March to basically June timeframe, and to get you the contracts prepared and everything. We're still working on it. The animal control program, that is a different issue, which we are meeting with towns, I believe, tomorrow. It was a short notice meeting, so we're not going to have everyone there, but if you can't be there, I'm certainly open to the conversation, because our goal is membership in the program that makes it better for everyone. But the problem that we're dealing with is, of the 10 or 11 towns that are members, about half did not provide the full assessment that they were supposed to, whether that was by decree of town meeting, by a decision of the select board for that town, by some other occurrence that I'm just unaware of. That's a problem. And so then it becomes a problem of the program we design, where there's an equitable distribution of the cost. How do we do that? Do we remove people because they're not paying the bill? I can't go to the general store and say I only want to pay $1 for the coffee. They don't agree with that, and I understand why. So it starts this conversation, but it also comes back to the conversation around regionalized policing and saying this model where we have 17 different inputs of yes or no destabilizes everything. So can we stabilize my problem, which is a resource problem, funding, which helps me buy cars, pay for personnel, pay for their benefits, provide the liability insurances that protect us, get the legal counsel to help me deliver the services in a way that doesn't get me sued or get you sued. To pay for all that, I need the resources. I'm very much the expense column of the problem. So how do I do that in a way that makes sense for people, as affordable by Vermonters, because it's hard. And I get that too. So that's the fun conversation of regionalized policing. Animal control was our pilot project into that conversation that helped us inform all of the dialogue. And so anyways, full circle, how do we enforce ordinances? If you give it to us, we'll work with you to do the things, but not all the things always make sense. But a deeper conversation on anything in particular.
Thank you for that
You're welcome.
explanation. More work.
Any public comment? Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, I am very much in favor of Sheriff Anderson's proposal of regionalized policing. However, he just said something very important in passing. He mentioned 17 municipalities. This in a state where local control is our shibboleth. So this will be a very interesting negotiation. On the other hand, let's do it.
You can come to the meeting in Putney on regional policing.
Yeah.
I think we have a motion, but I don't think we voted yet.
You have not voted yet. You have a first and you have a motion and a second. Yes.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Peg.
We'll trust that you put your hand up.
Oh, bet you're right on top of that.
Well, I got, it's the only way I'm gonna learn.
All right, Dummerston,
Thank
Putney.
you
Thank you.
for coming.
Thank you.
Have a good night, and we'll keep you posted on that meeting,
Thank you.
or meetings.
Dummerston, Putney crushing and blasting recommendation to award contract. Karen.
We're only that far? Wow.
Cruising.
No. All right, so Town of Putney solicited bid proposals for crushing and blasting services at the town-owned gravel pit on Route 5. Selected contractor will provide crushing services and subcontract blasting services as outlined in the request for proposal. That was dated on June 2nd, and it was posted and put in the newspaper. It was posted on our website. 3 bids were received, and a comparison spreadsheet is included in the packet. for the board's review, along with the actual bids, because one of the board members did request to see the bids, so. And I did open the bids on July 2nd, and I read them out loud. There was one contractor at the bid opening, so at that point, the bids were public knowledge. V.S.A. Brothers bid was $331,850. Crown Point, $395,550. And Fuzzy Brothers bid $266,000 plus extras. V.S.A. Brothers was the lowest per cubic yard, and the difference between V.S.A. Brothers and Crown Point was $63,700. The funding, if people were paying attention back in 2019, we created a blasting reserve fund, and we've been putting money in there every year because we knew in 5 years we were going to have to blast at the pit. And when I say blasting, so basically it's to break up the big ledge into smaller pieces of material that is needed by both towns. So I reviewed the blasting reserve account, and once the fiscal year 2026 transfer is made, which will be this month, there is $145,375 in the reserve account. The crushing expenses will be expensed to the highway operating budget under the designated line item in that budget with an amount of $31,500. So the bottom line is, because this is divided by 2, because Dummerston's half and Putney's half, cost to Putney is $165,925 minus the crushing costs, which come out of the other line item of $25,800. So the total is $140,125 for blasting. After consultation with Dummerston Road Superintendent Lee Chamberlain and the Putney Road Superintendent Lenny Howard, the town manager recommends to the select board to award the Dummerston Putney gravel pit crushing and blasting services to V.S.A. Brothers, Inc. in the amount of $331,850, and the proper certificate of insurance is in place.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
It's not likely because the road superintendent of Dummerston and ours agree on the on who should receive the bid, but what would happen if Dummerston went with a different company?
They have not. Lee Chamberlain texted me earlier and stated that V.S.A. did get the bid.
They got the bid, okay.
Yeah, in Dummerston.
All right, so we're there's. I was just wondering if there was something in the agreement that kind of prevented us from being at a cross.
It could have happened, but we took the time and energy to draft the RFP. Yeah. So we knew specifically from the spreadsheet what we were looking for.
Okay.
And we were confident.
Right.
And maybe we should have had a joint meeting, but that would have been another meeting. So
I'm just wondering, we're cooperating well with Dummerston on this bit, so it's not it's just kind of anyway.
And I will say that different towns do things differently. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I make a motion to award the Dummerston Putney gravel pit crushing and blasting services to V.S.A. Brothers Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $331,850 without prior approval, and to authorize the town manager to execute the contract.
Second.
Any public comment?
Can you ask if that's Lenny Howard on the iPhone?
Lenny, are you online?
Lenny? Do you have anything to add?
No, I think it was what was said by you is all the information that needed to be provided, and it was pretty much straightforward from our decision.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Fairman?
Mr. Chairman, first I want to compliment Select Person Tulloch on her very astute question about Dummerston versus Putney, which has been resolved. I'm curious, in such a contract, it has been mentioned that they are fully insured. I'm thinking of it as always from the public's perspective. There are people who live nearby where that blasting will occur. I guess it's really a two-part question. The first part is, are Haslam Brothers insured for property damage outside the limits of the grapple pit? And the second question is, are there standards for blasting training and methods that apply to them and that are acknowledged in the contract?
Yes, so when I write the contract, we will cover, this won't be a standard contract. And just so you know, V.S.A. Brothers will be subcontracting with Maine Blasting. And they have been, so V.S.A. and both Crown Point and Fuzzy Brothers, as a matter of fact, have done crushing in our pit. Maine Blasting has been down there as well. So there will be 2 different certificates of insurance for each company. We will look at the liability coverage for both. There is also some specific language regarding liability, and I'll also have it vetted by an attorney to make sure both towns are covered.
Thank you. I was wondering if there might be a blasting specialist, but I didn't want to confuse V.S.A. Brothers, because for all I know, they are. But you've clarified that. Thank you.
And I will say too, when we put the RFP out, Mr. Fairman, that we did specify certain criteria that they have to meet, including, following the blasting plan that's in place. So. And they have to have MSHA training and the whole 9 yards, blasting mats, everything. This is going to be a huge deal.
Indeed.
I've never done anything like this, so I'll do it once, because the next 5 years I won't be here, but it's like, this is a big deal. And because of the last incident, when the other owners did have a fly rock incident, there will be, we did put in the RFP rolling roadblocks, so that's an added expense, but we covered our bases on the RFP and we're confident with the companies that will be doing this work.
So, Ms. Town Manager, I guess we can say that as to job satisfaction, you'll be having a blast.
No pun intended, huh?
Well, always intended.
Peg wants to be there, I know it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, select board old business. A and B, I assume we're gonna.
Thank you, Lenny.
B, I think we can, so A, I think we should table, but B, we can, that was to specifically appoint a designated complaint recipient for ethics investigations.
Right, and I added that language in the ordinance, which is set up because it does have enforcement. It's on page 2, section 4, under complaints. It's item B. So the town manager appointed by the select board shall be the designated complaint recipient. Shall or may can be. I don't know, I think you're safe if you say shall be in the town manager, because unless you change form of government, yeah.
Let's not do that.
And I'm comfortable with the layout of this ordinance, just so you know. This is what I expect from an ordinance: authority, purpose, definitions, complaints, enforcement, appeals, other laws. Yeah. No whereases.
Okay, so then I guess we don't need to do anything.
No, it was just a, I forget what it's called, like a friendly amendment, or it's not a major change to the document.
Any public comment, Jeanette?
I just was curious because, as you know, I said at the last meeting that this was one of the worst pieces of legislation that came out of the State House. And I heard on the radio the other day some complaints by the director of the Ethics Commission that this year's legislation had delayed the implementation of this bill for 2 years. And I just wondered if that applied also to the municipal part of it, or if it was just certain parts of it. And I don't know, but if I just brought it up. I know you've already passed it and it's okay, and it did comply with what they did pass, but it was very interesting that they've delayed parts of it for 2 years. She was very upset about that.
Right. They could have delayed it for 5 or 6. That's what we'd be
Yeah, I
fine.
know, but you can just throw it away now. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting.
It's just busy work at this point.
It's just, yeah.
Mr. Fairman?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I agree with the previous speaker about the sloppy drafting of this ordinance. I can tell you that I contacted the director of the Ethics Commission with a couple of questions, and the response was, ask the legislature. Well, okay. I do happen to know that for municipalities it took effect July 1st.
I just want to clarify that I wasn't saying that this ordinance was drafted, sloppily drafted, because I think it was drafted. It was the statute that was sloppily and passed without appropriate input from town.
Well, it's basically the ordinance is basically the statute word for word.
Yeah,
right.
Because we had no choice.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't even know why they're making us adopt such a thing, because it's in statute and
and it's
anyway.
Like
I said, it's just busy work.
Yeah, it is.
Mr. Fairman?
Mr. Chairman, the previous speaker's point is well taken. Because she had referred to the statute, so was I, but I didn't say so. Apologies for that. I in no way wish to criticize the town of Putney ordinance.
All right.
Okay, so I guess.
Yep, we're gonna go into executive session.
Now, Mr. Chairman, here's where we can speak about shall and may. We members of the public are not allowed to say, we may leave now. We must say, we shall leave.
Shall leave.
There it is.
All right.
Have a good night.
Unless we invite you in, which we're not going to do. So there.
Yeah.
I just want to know where to sign up to watch the big show.
The big, I know, I'm hitting the button, right, Karen?
What button?
Cloud button.
All right, so we're gonna go into executive session, 1 V.S.A. 313A3, evaluation of a public officer or employee. 3132, real estate purchase or lease. And also V.S.A. 313 1E, pending civil litigation.
So moved.
We're inviting Karen. Are we making a decision?
Question for Eileen. Yeah, there might be a decision.
There might be a decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
There could
So
be two.
we'll be back here in a bit, and our next meeting will be July 23rd, 2025. All right, we're back with 2 motions.
Yes, so I make a motion to disband the Housing Advisory Committee.
Second.
discussion?
We can't discuss it.
All in favor?
Aye. And I make a motion to authorize the town manager to compose a letter to prove funding in order to view Our Lady Mercy Church property.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And